May the 6th, 2025. Guys, you're looking at the information coming from space weather this morning. The solar wind speed is almost at 600 kilometers per second. I'm beginning to wonder if we're ever going back to normal. 320 kilometers per second is what I guess I know I've averaged that over the years, and most people have too, because under calm conditions, that's where it will float around on the chart, around 320. Now they're not showing 3 on the chart, and yesterday they weren't showing 4. But it has come down from the 800 kilometers per second we're seeing. Right now, the density is very low. That's good, 1.20 proton centimeter cubed. That means the energy wave is thin, it's not as powerful. But what they are saying is this giant sunspot we've been watching, and it has been abnormally quiet for something that large with that kind of dual complexity in its magnetic fields. It says the giant sunspot 4079 is still quiet, but maybe not for long. Since yesterday, the sunspot's delta class magnetic field has become more complex and unstable. It now harbors energy for X-class solar flares. Any eruptions today will be geo-effective as the sunspot is directly facing Earth. It's just a little to the right of directly Earth-facing, but geo-effective, guys, that means Earth-affected. And let's take a look at the actual charts for a second. In looking at the full solar wind speed chart, right here in speed, in the purple line, you can see we were bumping around 800. You're getting at 1.9 million miles per hour. And it has come down. We're again dropping into, we're at 598 right now. Wasn't long ago, less than an hour ago, we were at 637. Right there, a little peak. But again, if you look right here, 400, 500. Normally this will start at 300. But I would just said that I wonder is this going to become some kind of new normal? And you look at the information we've been talking about for the last few months. You talk about Malachi chapter 4, the effect of the sun and the heat, everything going on. Are we starting to experience new normals? I sure hope not. Because unless there's a way that you could finally adapt to it, because it can be, the dizziness and the ear ringing and the fatigue, all of that is very serious conditions if you have to deal with it. But again, since that G4 magnetic storm, things have not been quite the same. I don't know if that was like a flash blow that kind of, cracked the eggshell. But right now, I am concerned that we may not go back to the normal that we're used to. That would be something to think about. I haven't heard it mentioned yet, but I'm just starting to see so many days in a row with this elevated solar wind speed. No solar flares, but we have some coronal openings. And you can tell here, guys, your shields are opening for, like 30 minutes, bouncing back up, closing. Right now, they're open at a pretty wide point. As a matter of fact, you can see that a -4 on the bottom and a +5 at the top. So you got a 9-point or 9-degree opening, I would call it, as we speak. So that's just allowing that energy to pour in as the sun is rising this morning. Here in the southeast, guys, we do have weather coming in, so keep your eyes on that. Let's take a look at this chart for a moment. Again, 4079 is here. This would be pretty much Earth-facing. It's just a little past it, which is good. The further it gets to the right, the less geo-effective it will be. Now, they're watching 4081 and 4082. Notice 4081 is starting to become different polarities. We're talking about triple polarities now over in 479. And what's called that light bridge, which was it made this look like owl eyes, guys. There was a bar that was going right through this. Let me get a closer look at that. But it's called a light bridge, and it's dissipating, which a light bridge sometimes will indicate that a sunspot is dividing and weakening. Well, that is gone. Now, set this back to the 4th of May, and that'll give you an idea of this light bridge situation. I've got this pulled up kind of close, but right there in the center where it's separating these eyes, I call it, that is the light bridge. And that usually, like I said, indicates a dividing of the spot and a weakening. but now it is dissipating, and they're saying it's becoming now, again, 3 different magnetic configurations, and the chance for X flares will rise when that happens. So we've got to pay attention to it. Again, it's been the largest, quietest sunspot that we've seen in a long time, and that light bridge that is now dissipating may have had something to do with it being quiet. We're going to watch it. Same time frame, same satellite, different camera. This teal camera gives us an excellent filter to look at the energy on the sun as far as the filaments, solar flares. This is the one to go to, especially your X flares. But notice something here, guys. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 giant tornadoes, much larger than our planet, magnetic, gaseous, very dangerous if they release. But look right here. And they line up, and these filaments sometimes that you see will ride across the top of them. I'll bring that up closer. Here's our large sunspot. You can see the magnetic connectivity in it kind of breaking through there. You can see it here going back to the 4th, and it starts to increase by the time it gets over here today on the 6th. But that's an amazing image right there. And what you're seeing at the bottom, you got a coronal hole. But right in the middle is like a magnetic canopy cloud, and it's got a filament in it. And watch the filament release. It will cause a flare. Then as that filament collapses back into the magnetic canopy here, it will create a hider flare. Did you see that? In other words, some of the energy from the filament release escapes, but the magnetics of the sun pulls back a portion of it. And when that is pulled back into the surface, a massive canyon opens, again called a hider flare. But there's some amazing things happening on our sun. And, another thing to think about, when that angel pours out his vial upon the sun, will it be an instantaneous, full-on attack like going 0 to 10, or will it increase slowly? We don't know that. We don't know the time and place, but we do see the effects on humanity. And for the last few years, we've seen that as well as the effects on the planet. The heat, the droughts, everything, the extreme storms, and we're coming into hurricane season again, just around the corner. But I want to show you one other thing. Now, this is one of my favorite, and it's a combo of 3 cameras. You see the 3 different colors down here in your timestamp. Now, this is not moving. A lot of times, for some reason lately, this one really glitches when you try to animate it or move it. But you get the idea of what I'm talking about. Here are your lines of tornadoes, or solar tornadoes, whatever you want to call them, twisters. Here's a long, thin, powerful filament. Here's one snaking along the bottom. See this one that was in the middle of this, I guess I'd call it a magnetic canopy cloud right in the center of this large opening. The purple areas, there's no canopy there to capture the solar wind, and it comes straight out. And that's what we're seeing now. Actually, it's here also, and just between these magnetic canopies here. Here's our 2 sunspots. Look at that. It's very large. But this section here is quite unusual to have just that section in the middle of a coronal hole that large, but it is what it is. That's what we were dealing with, and that's where you saw the hider flare from this filament release right there. Let's take a look a moment at the photon physics over at CERN, at the LHC. We've talked about the power here, and when you get the red and blue lines, which are beam 1 is blue, beam 2 is red, and you get those lining up, it indicates the combination or the combined power of those 2 by this black line. And you can see it's well above the threshold that we've seen year after year at 13 total tera-electron volts, or 13,000 giga-electron volts. It's at 67.99 per beam, which is, again, 65 was the peak when they were reaching luminosity the last few years, when they would finally shut down in the early winter. But right now you can tell that they were running at full power until about 10 hours at UTC time, and it started dropping off. Let's see how well those beams are lined up. Now, beam 1 in the blue is on your left, and beam 2 is on the right in your red. What happened yesterday, they were very close, if you remember. And then I checked it, guys, just for some reason, minutes after that video went up, and these things were lining up. If you remember, you had, beam 1 is here, and you had these sections of blue and white dots, and they were real close. There were about 4 of them. And beam 2 is getting very close to it. Well, when I look back, they were right on top of each other, and that's when you really get the energy, and that's probably what was happening at about 1500 hours when these things were lining up again. Elevation, windage. This is windage, and this is elevation. You get them at the same spot, they collide, and that's when you get that power that they're looking for. Now let's go back a different chart. This is the operation chart. It goes back a little bit further, and you can see what they're doing, it looks like, is they're reaching peak power, then it's slowly winding down. I don't know if that's on purpose. Again, a repeat of that. And on this last run, they didn't quite get everything to go up. It didn't get the 2 beams lined up to rise in that power situation. Don't know if that's them running at extra power, and then it's forcing them to ease back a little bit at that point, not running the continuous 67 plus per side or per beam. Don't know, but definitely they get it up there, and the beams themselves start to wind down. Then the power, once they get to this point, power just drops. Bam. And they're trying to kick it back up just like continuous runs. Could be on purpose. Now, if we look at the luminosity chart, or what they call the Photon Physics page, this is live also. You can see that still running at 67.99, but the power's dropped. Now, notice over here it says luminosity. This is Atlas. This is Alice, LLC, or LHCb, and CMS. Different sections of this whole CERN configuration, guys. Different sections that these experiments happen in. But you can see right here, they were peaking until that power point dropped right here in the luminosity. So that tells me those beams were hitting dead on. And I think these peaks are indicating this new power that they're reaching. We knew it would happen, and when I read the article this year, just before they cranked up about the new coating, new technology they had to keep everything cooler, I thought to myself, that will be the new power source until they get to a stage to where something else breaks and they have to reconfigure it or adjust it. But some people say it's not dangerous. To me, the danger is the effect on the electromagnetic fields of our planet. When man steps into what God creates and they try to adjust it, it never comes out good, ever. God had this planned perfectly, his balance. And when you try to fool with it, what are you doing? When you got madman or mad men and women running the section of the world or the group in this world, that, guys, you know they don't pay taxes. The employees there at CERN get paid a tremendous amount, most of them, and they have no taxes that they have to pay. They're a separate, untouchable, almost society in that place. But anyway, guys, we're watching this. There's some political things going on today, a big rally out in front of the Department of Justice. And Stephen Miller, guys, has now sued the Supreme Court leaders, which you're talking about. Justice Roberts is involved in the lawsuit, and Alito, because they've kind of turned to the dark side now, and they've organized a group of judges to create lawfare because they think they have the power of the president. But Miller just issued this lawsuit, and he's going to rein that back in. And that's going to be something to watch for, and it's something we've talked about. They got to do something with the radical judges. Looks like that's happening. But guys, we're watching this. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.